Key concepts. Key concepts are scarcity, choice, efficiency, equity, economic well-being, sustainability, change, interdependence, intervention. Can you define these key concepts? Spend some time taking turns into defining and explaining these key concepts. If necessary, go to source.
till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
We should find some definitions for the following: subsidy, indirect tax, price floor, price ceiling, equity, market failure, consumption, production, government revenue, and intervention. I will play some music while you look for these definitions.
close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll I can't find my way back to you till you make amends with the demons you've been through. I can't regret leaving you alone until you find your way back home. Till you find your way back home. let me drown. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown. Until you find your way back home. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown. I can't regret leaving you alone until you find your way back home. Come in, come in. I can seat you by the fire. Listen, listen. There's something I must confide. I know I said that it'd be fine. I know I made it look like it'd be alright. But I think I learned my lesson, and I'm not gonna let you out of my sight. You can call me killer, 'cause I'll bring you to the light. And it might taste bitter when your answer ain't to God. You can call me killer as you look into my eyes. Nothing but a sinner. You won't get away this time. You won't get away this time. You won't get away this time. You won't get away. catch you slipping by. Why do I get myself? Why do I get myself caught up in these lonely nights?
Maximum price and intervention subsidy. As you can see on the diagram on the left, a price ceiling of P max has been applied to a market for maize. This will ensure that there is a maximum price on maize. However, please observe the amount supplied at P max is Q1. But at P max, the amount demanded is Q2. This causes an excess demand. So there are more people looking for maize at P max than is being supplied. A possible government action to solve the excess demand is to give a subsidy. So for every amount of maize produced, we get a subsidy. This would shift the S curve to S plus subsidy and would clear the market at Q2. Please practice these diagrams. Please practice drawing them. Go to the textbook and see what the textbook says about maximum price control and possible interventions to clear the market of excess demand.
see the light inside you, brighter than the skies. Hold on, just let us escape and fly away tonight. We have the world in our sight, and I know together we'll be alright. Can you see forever we will go?
In this diagram, the diagram on the left, we see a price floor applied to agricultural product. The reason for this is to support farmers and give them more income. For example, butter in Ireland, a price minimum is set above the equilibrium price, and what occurs is that at this price, due to the law of supply, the producers will produce Q2 at the minimum price. However, in terms of the law of demand, consumers will only take Q1 of butter at P min. This leaves us with an excess of supply. A possible government action could be buying up the excess supply and thus shifting the D curve to D plus government buying. This would clear the market at Q2. Please look at your textbook and practice minimum price diagrams, price floor diagrams, and look at interventions to clear excess supply. Take your time, have a read through the notes, and practice the diagrams, please.
When I'm lonely in the dark, I know you are with me. Yeah. Don't you see that I need you so much? Don't you see that I love you so much? Oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, darling, I need your love. Oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, darling, I need your love. Oh. When I'm lonely in the dark, I know you are with me. Yeah. Don't you see that I need you so much? Don't you see that I love you so much? Oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, darling, I need your love. Oh na 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 na, oh na 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 na, darling, I need your love.
Okay, let us build an indirect tax diagram. Start with the X and Y. X being quantity and Y being price. Draw a supply-demand diagram with equilibrium at P1, Q1. Add a supply curve labeled S plus tax. What effect does the tax have on price? Will the shift of supply from S to S tax be inwards to the left or outwards? Label the intersections to the X, Y axis, example P2, Q2. How does your diagram look? Check that it has a title. Check that the axes are labeled 2.
Ich habe mir vorgenommen, viel für meine Abwehrkräfte zu tun. Vitasprint Pro Immun. Mit einem Dreh aktivieren Sie den Zwei-Phasen-Komplex aus Azerol.
Indirect tax diagram. Initially, there was a market clearance price of P1 giving the amount quantity of Q1. Then a tax was applied. This caused the price to rise and the quantity demanded to decrease from Q1 to Q2. As you can see, the supply curve has shifted inwards from S to S plus tax. The y-axis is labeled price. The x-axis is labeled quantity. The new equilibrium is P2, Q2. However, I have not entered the arrow that denotes the shift. So this diagram could lose marks. So it's always important to pay attention to detail and check your diagrams. Please replicate this diagram.
Sitting down rocks across the stage and hoping they will please and swallow me whole. Wondering why my mind keeps on spinning. Missing I listen to me what's so. Why am I like this? Been so exhausted, can't put my finger on it, but it's there. I want to stop that, but my mind won't apply, waiting for it to clear. Is it that sometimes I like it when I lose control? There's something in it that's so beautiful.
Now that you've replicated the indirect tax diagram, I want to ask you the following questions. What are the effects on stakeholders? What is the amount of tax revenue gained? Could you shade this area? What is the reduction on producer surplus? Could you shade this area? Producer revenue, What is the reduction of producer revenue? Can you shade this area? And could you shade the tax burden? How much of tax burden falls on consumer? How much of tax burden falls on producer? Take a look in your textbook to see how these areas would look.
And I can see the light, but I can also see the I don't know what else there is today. Going back not to run away. Sitting down and rocks across the stage and hoping it'll please and swallow me whole. Wondering how the world keeps on spinning, kind of scared of living when it unfolds. I can see the light when everything inside and waiting for it to clear. Thankful I'm alive, but terrified it's dying. But hey, I'm still here. Is it that sometimes I like it when I lose control? There's something in it that's so beautiful. And I can see the light, but I can also see the consequences. I laid awake just begging to let go. I almost got to suicidal thoughts when you stepped in.
As you see from the diagram, original equilibrium was P1Q1. Total revenue is TR equals P times Q. So, if you look at the box, P1 Q1, that would be the total revenue before tax. A tax was applied and there was a shift inwards from S to S plus tax.
Angels sent from heaven showed me how to live again. Now I'm falling and I can't see the ground. Can we stop this gravity? It keeps bringing me down. I can't breathe and I don't wanna die. Stop this gravity. I wanna say goodbye.
Ich habe mir vorgenommen, viel für meine Abwehrkräfte zu tun.
So why is it that initially P1Q1, which represents producer revenue, goes to the smaller red box? Why is it that producer revenue reduces to the red shaded area? Well, firstly, previously at P1, in terms of the law of demand, a quantity of Q1 was demanded. However, with the price having been raised to P2, we can see that the quantity demanded will fall to Q2. Thus, the orange shaded area is no longer available to the market. Secondly, due to the application of the tax, the blue shaded area will be lost to the producer.
Baby, wait, I know that you're afraid, but it'll be okay if you just stay with me, and we can run from here, and we can disappear.
Indirect tax, government revenue. As you can see, when a tax is applied, the supply curve will shift from S to S plus tax. This will cause the quantity to move from P1, Q1, so the quantity will reduce from Q1 to Q2 at the higher price of P2. Now, if you look at the diagram, at Q2 there will be tax collected equal to the difference between P2 and C. This tax will be collected at the quantity of Q2. So for every item sold, there will be tax paid. Thus we will get the shaded area being tax revenue. So tax revenue will be shown by the shaded area that is blue. As you can see, we have a tax diagram. Initially, we had a supply and demand giving us a price 1 and quantity 1. Now, on the last diagram, I drew a line in purple. Basically, that is to remind us that above the equilibrium price, towards the origin, we have a consumer surplus. And below the price P1, we had a producer surplus. Now, the area that is shaded in green is the part of the tax that comes from the consumer surplus that existed at the original price P1. And below P1, the red shaded area indicates the amount of the tax that came from the producer surplus that existed originally at price 1. If you look carefully at my diagram, you will see that my P1 does not correspond to the intersection of demand and supply. This is a deliberate inaccuracy. As you can see, this inaccuracy is giving a false impression. It appears in this particular diagram that the consumer tax burden is greater than the producer tax burden. But in fact, if you look closely, the diagram is inaccurate. So in fact, there shouldn't be much of a difference between producer tax burden and consumer tax burden, as both S and D are approximately a 45-degree gradient. Now, just of interest, what would happen were the demand curve to be steeper? Explore this in your textbook. So I'm going to give it a little bit of time to look at tax burden. Now, the more inelastic the demand curve, the more the tax burden will lay with the consumer. The more elastic the demand curve, the more the tax burden will lay with the producer. Go have a look in your textbook.
Baby, wait, I know that you're afraid, but it'll be okay if you just stay with me, and we can run from here, and we can disappear, and they won't find us where we are going, dear. So baby, hold on to me, 'cause I know I can make you believe something that only we can see. Oh, so baby, hold on to me, hold on to me. I've been chillin', watching the ocean with you. Baby up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our growlings when people change, but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the mall soon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same.
Subsidy diagram. As you can see, for every unit produced, the government will give a subsidy. The subsidy will shift the S-curve to S plus subsidy, thus allowing the market to give a lower price, P2, and a higher quantity demanded of Q2. I am missing something from this diagram. As you can see, it is the arrow. The diagram needs to be accurate by putting in an arrow to denote the shift of S from S to S plus subsidy. The next thing to look at this diagram, I'm going to use the color red. So the new price is P2 and the new quantity is Q2. However, while the market clears at P2 Q2, it is still being produced at P3 Q2. So in effect, the difference between P3 and P2 is your subsidy amount. So be very careful when drawing this diagram that you extend from Q2 up to the original supply curve when calculating the amount of the government subsidy.
Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me haunting, haunting. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me haunting, and I'll be running, possessed by a low, low voodoo. Fired up like a wolf on the full moon. And we're stuck in a la la land. The tides will turn without us. And I'll be killing time like I might be a cartoon. Take it in with your life like haiku. I know we got the good vibes when pieces fall right into place. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me haunting, haunting. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me haunting,
Naturally, this subsidy is coming from tax revenue. So in effect, the people who are paying the tax are paying the subsidy. So it's questionable on how efficient a subsidy is. On the one side, the consumer will gain from a lower price, but on the other side, the taxpayer will be paying for the subsidy. Another question to note is what it would be the effect on producer revenue. When the supply shifts from S to S plus subsidy, what is the change in producer revenue? Draw a diagram showing change in producer revenue, please.
I'm Jimmy at Woodstock, and I'm drumming around in your headphone, shivers down my spinal cord. Oh, 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 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zeros deep money, and I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes are funny, my tongue tied up running. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding,
Nine.
Here we go again. Trying hard, but you wanna be my friend. Ain't no place to hide, ain't no one to run to. Here we go again. Call my bluff, I'ma be here till the end. I'm the one you ride, I'm the one you ride to. If you don't wanna change, ain't no place to hide, ain't no one to run to. If you don't wanna change, I can help you out. I can help you out. I can help you out. Time is up and I'm calling up my friends. Ain't no wonder why, ain't no wonder why too. Here we go again. Call me up and you wanna be my friend. I'm the one you ride, I'm the one you ride to. If you don't wanna change, ain't no place to hide, ain't no one to run to. If you don't wanna change, I can help you out. 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 Look, if you don't wanna change, ain't no place to hide, ain't no one to run to. If you don't wanna change, I can help you out. 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 I just can't let you go. Lord knows that I've tried to. You said I was the only one. No one likes being lied to. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I wanna burn all the bridges between us. I can't focus. I can't forget. I've been thinking too much lately. I just need to clear my head. I just need to clear my head. I've been stuck on a memory, but it's not like I need it. And we may have some history, but we don't have to repeat it. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I'm gonna burn all the bridges between us. I can't focus. I can't forget. I've been thinking too much lately. I just need to clear my head. 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 I just need to. I just need to clear my head. I just need to. I just need to clear my head. I just need to. I just need to clear my head. Can't focus. I can't forget. I've been thinking too much lately.
Okay, so what are we doing at present? We are making notes on price control and price ceilings, price floors. We are making notes on indirect taxes and subsidies, direct provision of services, and command and control regulation and legislation. Please know your notes must be to AO2 so that AO2 we can explain. Also, the depth of teaching is AO4, so you must know your diagrams. We must have diagrams showing the following measures and the possible effects on markets and stakeholders. So we need to know with the price ceiling, what are the effects of stakeholders. We need to know the same for price floor. We need to know the same from indirect tax, and we need to know the same for subsidy. Now, also, there's calculation, HL only, the effects on markets and stakeholders of price ceilings and price floors and indirect taxes and subsidies. So, while you're taking your notes, please make sure you have notes on everything. That is, direct provision, command and control, indirect tax and subsidies, and price ceilings and price floors. And you must have the diagrams for price ceiling, price floor, indirect tax, and subsidy. It's not enough just to have the diagram. You must be able to, like we shaded, show the effects of price ceiling, price floor, indirect tax, and subsidy on the stakeholders. Also, we saw a shaded diagram, and for example, when a tax is applied, we can shade the area that is the tax revenue. We can shade the area that is the consumer burden. We can shade the area that is the producer tax burden. You need to be able to calculate these figures too. So make sure your notes are nice and clear. Explore the links. Please look around for real life examples to add to your notes. I'll put the music on again.
größte Bedrohung unseres Planeten ist der Glaube, dass jemand anders ihn retten wird.
Ikea.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
Main forms of government intervention in markets. This is a higher level topic. So, firstly, we'll look at the calculations. These are higher level only and are the effects on markets and stakeholders of price ceilings and price floors, indirect tax and subsidies. Important. Be familiar with the effects on stakeholders and market. You could, for example, be asked to calculate the amount in dollars that a subsidy costs an industry based on a diagram and/or data. To consider is what is called the incidence of tax. An inelastic demand curve, for example, will increase the tax burden on consumer, while an elastic demand curve will increase the tax burden on the producer. So a little recap, you had plenty of time, look at your price ceilings and price floors and the effects on the market and the effect on stakeholders. Look at your indirect taxes and subsidies, and again, what is the effect on the market? For example, indirect tax will reduce the quantity demanded and raise the price. And subsidy, for example, will give a lower price and a higher quantity demanded in the market. For example, your indirect taxes, there will be government revenue, which you can draw on your diagram, and of this government revenue, it will be shared between the consumer and the producer. Okay, so there's your calculations, your consumer nudges. Now, your consumer nudge is a positive reinforcement. Often is talked about where to place a salad bar, for example. If I must go past the salad bar, will I eat salad? Quite interesting. I went to a takeout last week and I really felt like having chips, but there were no chips. So I took something healthier instead. So that would be the idea of a positive reinforcement. Perhaps we could even talk of, instead of taking a soft drink, a sugary drink, there is a positive reinforcement, a consumer nudge to take something healthier, for example, mineral water. These are positive reinforcements and indirect suggestions that are used to influence the behavior and decision making of consumers. So let's have a little look, take a little look, make a little bit of research on the idea of consumer nudges. Please take a few brief notes, a couple of examples.
Chill by Sakura HC. Take You There, feat. Ria Tuning by Spectrum.
Been thinking about you all night. I've been searching for this all my life. You're just my type. I've been looking for a boy who can treat me right. Your dark hair.
Help You Out, feat. Jonathan Robbins by Lionel Casio.
I can help you out. I can help you out. I can help you out.
After the Rain by Rex Lambo.
Okay, government intervention in markets and consequences for markets and stakeholders. I'm going to play a little bit more music. We're going to have to come back to this next period. If my timing is correct, it's about time for you to change class. So I'll give you music again until you come back.
Du bist so hysterisch, wenn du hungrig bist. Probier das neue Snickers Crisp.
I get up, time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays.
Okay, government intervention in markets, consequences for markets and stakeholders. This is a AO3 subtopic. So let's have a little look again. It's the economics guide, page 18. AO3 is synthesis and evaluation. Now, what we've got is we've got terms, key demand terms like compare, compare and contrast, discuss, evaluate, examine, justify, recommend, and our to what extent question. So, what depth do we need? Well, these terms require students to rearrange component ideas into a new whole and make judgments based on evidence or a set of criteria. So to do this, you need to be familiar with the models, with the topics, for example, indirect tax. What would be the effect of an indirect tax? So, for example, if you put an indirect tax as a Pigovian tax on cigarettes to discourage people from using this demerit good, then you would know that it is unlikely to have effect on the middle to high income, because the cigarette prices are relatively low compared to their disposable income, whereas the particularly poor people would be addicted to the cigarette and may suffer some kind of financial cost because the cigarette cannot be substituted in the short run and is not so easy just to stop once you become addicted to the cigarette, for example. For example, the subsidy, we know that subsidy would give a lower cost price and it would increase the quantity demanded. However, in terms of evaluation, is the cost of the subsidy to the taxpayer worth the benefit to the consumer? So these are the kind of things that you could be doing. So let's have a little look. Well, we need to examine economic concepts and theories. We need to use economic concepts and examples to construct and present an argument. We need to discuss and evaluate economic information and theories. What means discuss? What does evaluate mean? This could be a good time to go and look quickly at command terms in economics. A good way to do that is flashcards, command terms, IB economics. Okay, but I'm going to play a couple of minutes of music, and after that I will be happy that you know your AO3 command terms. For the higher level, you also need to demonstrate economic synthesis. What do they mean by synthesis? And evaluation of extension topics. You need to select and use economic data using economic theory to make policy recommendations. Okay, firstly, if you didn't complete the last slide because it became at the end of the period, please go back and listen to it fully. Yeah? I will give you some time to do this. Okay, welcome back. So, firstly, this topic is government intervention in markets, consequences for markets and stakeholders. So at no point are you looking at the reasons, you are looking at the consequences. Now your consequences would be the effects of the government intervention. Now, consequences are effects, and government intervention is a definable term. What is government intervention? Now, when you come to your AO3 that we talked of in the previous slide, you would know that AO3 includes evaluation. Yes? So if I was to ask you what is meant by the term evaluate, you should know what to answer. So once we've built our answer, we've talked of definitions, we've introduced the diagrams, we've applied them, we've applied the theory to whatever question we've been given, then we will come to the point where we start to evaluate. So, ways to evaluate, we could look at the short-term versus long-term effects. Now let me give you an example. Let's say the government is wanting to apply a tax on cigarettes. Now, the good thing from the government point of view, it would raise a lot of government revenue. Also, because it's an inelastic demand curve, the consumer burden would be very firmly placed on the consumers. So some of the consumers, in terms of the law of demand, would stop smoking. However, we know that because from when we looked at elasticities, that an inelastic demand curve does not necessarily cause a great reduction in quantity demanded. So it's this time you could consider other short-term effects. So what we've got is we've got people that are living beyond their means. Yeah. If they are poor. So it would impact on poverty. If they are middle income or higher, there wouldn't be much of an effect at all. However, in terms of government revenue, it would provide a lot of government revenue in the short term. So, if we're looking at taxes, for example, in the short term, they're good forms of government revenue. However, in the long term, if you consider France and the yellow jackets, a lot of their concerns are tax related. So if people believe that they are being charged too much tax, then they might be unhappy, and it could affect the economy with things like strikes, etc. Also to consider, for example, a study was done, I believe, in the UK, and they basically said you would at least have to double the price of a packet of cigarettes, maybe even put it up by 2 times the price to actually have a significant effect of people stopping smoking. So while we're looking at this, we could look at different methods. For example, we'll see later in market failure that you could educate the people to stop smoking. Yeah. We could also ban places where people can smoke, etc., etc. Another, in the long term, educating people on basically consumer nudges. If I was to take a packet of cigarettes, there would be a ugly, disturbing picture on it, which would start me thinking about, do I want my lips to fall off? Do I want my leg to fall off? Do I want to have a heart attack? Do I want to have lung cancer? And in the long term, probably not. Yes, however, will depend also in terms of evaluation, the age of the consumer. If I was 18, 19, I wouldn't be so concerned about immediately getting lung cancer or immediately getting circulation problems, for example. So in the short term, for the youth who in general have less disposable income than older consumers, a tax might be more effective. A tax may stop people from smoking in the first place. Now, what you can see with the evaluation, it is word heavy. There's many different paths you can go in your evaluation. So, one to look at is short-term versus long-term effects. Another one is to look at the positive effects versus the negative effects. Yeah. Or similar comparison, advantages versus disadvantages. And then you can do stakeholder analysis. Look at the effect on the different stakeholders. Effect on the government, effect on the consumer, effect on the producer. Now, if there's a detrimental effect on the producer, even if it's just the tax means that we have less quantity sold. And with less quantity being sold, I might want to lay off some employees, for example. So it could have effect later on employment. So that at the bottom, it says in brackets, later you may recognize an interventionist policy having an effect on macroeconomic goals. If applied taxes to many products, we'll see maybe inflationary pressure. Yeah. On the other hand, though, a lot of tax revenue will be brought in, which the government could spend in another direction. Now, so you look at the effects on different stakeholders. You could look for limitations of interventions. Example, firms may ignore regulations. Firms may pocket the subsidy, and they may produce lower quality products. In terms of the cigarette, I believe Russia tried to ban smoking in Moscow totally. However, the ban was ignored. So, if you just want to reflect a little bit on what kind of things you could put into an evaluation question. So, and also, please, this subtopic calls for government interventions in the markets, consequences for markets and stakeholders. So don't be drawn off focus looking at the reasons for too much, because the marks would lie in consequences. So always read your questions carefully. Okay, as you can see, we have a task to do. 3 groups will be formed. Each group will make a PowerPoint presentation evaluating the following. Group 1 will look at consequences of government intervention in the form of price controls. Group 2 will look at the effect of indirect taxes and subsidies on the market and its stakeholders. Group 3 will do an evaluation of direct provision of services and command and control legislation or regulation or regulation. Okay, at this time I'm paging through the economics guide, and let's look at economics in the IB learner profile. Well, IB learners are inquirers. Economic students will undertake independent and collaborative investigations into real-world economic issues. We are knowledgeable. We utilize economic concepts, theories, and models with confidence to gain a more sophisticated understanding of current economic issues, data, and events. You could take a look yourself. It's on page 9. So we're thinkers, we're communicators, we can compose clear and concise analytical commentaries using the language and tools of economics. We're principled, we're open-minded, we're caring, we're risk-takers, we're balanced, and we are reflective. Now, at this particular point, well, firstly, we don't have numbers that can be divided by 3. So, in terms of your groups, what do we do? Well, the possibility is we could do this work individually. Yeah? Or we can group up. Now, I, at this particular moment, though, cannot put you into groups. So what you must do is you must use your skills of being thinkers and communicators, and also the ATL skill of self-management, and put yourselves into groups. Yeah? You will have to record this somewhere, and you will need to complete this task. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the slides and put the music that indicates the timing of the task at the end, the last slide of the lesson. So what you can do at that stage, if you're tired of the music, you can turn the music off, or you can just let the music play. But basically, I would like by the end of this week for this task to be done, that you can email to me your completed PowerPoint presentation and be prepared to present and communicate it to me in class the next time we meet. Okay, I would like you to ensure definitions, diagrams, real-life examples in your presentation, and I'll be marking it against the 15-mark Paper 1 Part B guide, which you can find in the Economics Guide on page 63 and 64 for your mark bands. I'll give you some time. I've basically got now some sources that were named. I'm just going to play a little bit of music in case you want to explore the sources. That said, I don't know how useful the sources will be, but any other links were named in the PowerPoint itself.
I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes.
So, basically, you might be wondering why we're listening to this beautiful no copyright sounds. Well, initially, when I made the PowerPoint, I chose music with some of these artists. I'll read them. I had some Jean-Michel Jarre, some Toy Dolls, Vangelis, Thompson Twins, a little bit of Tears for Fears, some Yellow, Dr. Alban, Flock of Seagulls, Visage, Yes, Heroes Fantastis, Bloodhound Gang, Dead or Alive, Rick Astley, Andreas Botticelli, Depeche Mode, Frank Sinatra, Rob Zombie, Acer, JX and Fedez, Kaoma, Marilyn Manson, Modern Talking, Los Rios, and Serge Moldova. And then my video got blocked. You probably got the link now. Well, I'm going to be shortly sending an email so that you have a working version of this video through YouTube. Strangely enough, I don't know what was copyrighted. I had some traditional folk music. I had Mickey's Theodorakis, some nice Metallica, Snap, Foco Felicica, Culture Beat, Falco, Amalia Rodriguez, Rammstein, Unheilig, Bless Bridges, Napoleon XIV, Johnny Clegg and Savuka, Eiffel 65, Hot Butter, they sing the popcorn song, the Corries, some Electric Light Orchestra, Nirvana, Bad Boys Blue, Public Image Limited, Sabrina, Sisters of Mercy, Def Leppard, Radiohead, Dope, and Slim Whitman. You might want to explore these with a mind of background music while you sort yourself in for your presentations. Now, I'm going to sign off. Let's listen to another bit of beautiful no copyright sounds. I don't know what I was thinking with this beautiful no copyright sound by by trying to look at different artists and falling foul of copyright regulations on YouTube. The main reason I used YouTube in the first place was actually the document was too big to email. And since I'm not able to come into school at this particular moment, that caused problems. So I'm going to change this beautiful non-copyright music backtrack and send to you. You will observe probably for the timings that you've got the rest of the lesson without music. Please work on your presentations. Please bring your notes up to date. If there's anything that is puzzling you, please send me an email. Thank you very much.